losses by double digits. All right, as we bring on Etan Thomas to talk more Cuse basketball. And Etan, I guess, before we get into Clemson, let's start with what you saw against Notre Dame. And it's a 17-point deficit in the first half, and this team that, there's been a lot of adversity this year. A lot has gone against them. They dig deep, and collectively, I think from the coaches to the players, they collectively put their head down and they somehow figured it out and they got a win. I mean, what do you take away from Saturday's performance?
Interesting. I saw some change in coaching strategies that proved to really be successful. And I think a lot of the criticism has been that, people have not seen, an offensive strategy and not seen adjustments being made in games. I know a lot of that comes with losses. When you lose, everybody questions everything. But I saw a few adjustments that were made, especially in that second half, that changed a lot for the game against Notre Dame. The first one was they moved JJ off the ball, and they moved him, they put Carlos at the point and moved him off the ball. And he was able to operate a lot easier, and it just seemed to work. It's one of those things that if it doesn't work, then there's a lot of criticism that comes with it, but that it worked. So there should be acknowledgement that the coach's strategy did work. And I have no problems with people being critical of coaches, no problem at all. But you have to, be a little bit balanced. I think sometimes some of our fans, even though they have a reason to be frustrated with this season, there's a way that you can have a dialogue. But in this instance, that proved to be successful. Now, I will say that I don't think that strategy is going to work tonight because the makeup of Clemson's team is a lot different than the makeup of Notre Dame. They were a smaller backcourt, so I think you could get away with it then. I don't think that that's going to be successful against Clemson. That's just my personal opinion, but it did work. And then I also thought that the adjustment with Cal Cuff, his defense on Burton, especially in that second half, I thought was great. And I thought that he really stepped up to the plate. And, that first half, Burton scored as many points as our entire team. And the second half was a completely different story. But I think those two adjustments, were really key adjustments in that game.
I know you're a big guy, right, Etan, and you always want to see the big guys get involved. I thought another thing that they did was they got more touches for Eddie Lampkin and Jair Davis, especially in that second half. And not that the offense necessarily ran through those guys, but they were kind of running inside out. They were getting touches, they were getting it back out to the perimeter guys, and that it seemed to help with spacing. And Jair Davis made an impact. Eddie Lampkin made an impact. What'd you think about that adjustment, about getting those guys, the big guys, some more touches?
I think it was definitely a concerted effort to do that, and I think they really responded. I think we should be playing inside out, to be honest with you. I think the two bigs have been really consistent and really doing well. And the thing is, Eddie Lampkin can pass the ball out of double teams. He can find open people. He's a willing passer. And Jair Davis has been really well, especially that high post area, being able to operate and dribbling down and be able to back a person. They've been playing well. They've been playing hard, and I think that one of the things that it does is it makes the defense kind of move a little bit. It's but we do have to knock down some shots. I will say that. I am not someone who is a proponent of jacking up a whole lot of threes. I don't think 3-point shooting is really our specialty, to be honest with you, this year. But I do think that guys do have to knock down some threes just to keep the spacing. I don't want to see teams just really pack it in on our bigs, because we're shooting so poorly, and really crowd them. And then that's when the turnovers, start to mound because they have no space in there. So we do have to knock down some threes. But, to your point, playing inside out and the way that the bigs have been playing, I think that's a formula that we should continue with.
All right,
Etan,
so Syracuse is one. Go ahead. Paul.
Is it possible for a team to have it just click at some point? Like last game, second half, they held Notre Dame to low 20s in points. And is it possible for a team to just be like, whoa, that worked on defense, so now, there's going to be a buy-in and we go from there?
Well, you can definitely capitalize on the positives that you have from a game. That's why when when fans get a little upset with me when I try to speak about positives, even in a loss. There's positives that you can take out. It doesn't mean that the whole game went well, but it has to click some way. So if there a positive that you can say is the defense, whether it's the perimeter defense or the transition defense or something like that, is better, then you can carry that into the next game. And if you have a better offensive night, then you combine that with the carryover from the defensive effort. You can put something together. But I thought the defense was really good. I think that was one of our better defensive games that second half against Notre Dame. And also we was able to get a little bit of fast breaks going. We didn't really fast break a whole lot. I thought that, that sometimes Eddie would grab the rebound and outlet it. I know one time it didn't work. He threw the ball away, but just those fast breaks, that's what gets the crowd into it. Everybody's excited. Eddie's playing with a whole lot of emotion and everything like that. I think that there are definitely things that we can capitalize on. But you would like to see things click, to answer your question specifically, on all cylinders, but sometimes it just doesn't happen like that. They click in parts.
So I was going to ask you about that, Etan. So this team's won 3 of 4 now, and they've done some good things in these 3 wins, especially that second half against Notre Dame. And you just used that phrase, you want it to click. And we keep talking about, has the light bulb gone off with this team? Are they coming together? They're 18 games in. I would say it's probably unusual, right, for it to take this long for something to click. But do you think there's hope that? Have you ever been on a team, I guess, that it took this long for things to quote unquote click, or are they just kind of at this point they kind of are what they are?
No, I don't think it's that. You got to understand also, with the new landscape of basketball, it's going to take a while every year for teams to really click because they have new personnel. It's not like you have younger players that were just there the whole time, and maybe they took a while, then they didn't play that much, but they're playing in the system and they know what the coaches wants, and sometimes it's just going to take a little while to click. And I don't think that's necessarily going to go away, but you have to be able to build on the things that worked in the last game. The only thing that I have an issue, and I said it already, I don't know if we're going to, and I'd like to throw it to y'all. What do you think this lineup should be, especially in the backcourt, which is the best lineup to have JJ really be successful? Because we need him to be successful. We don't need him to have a game where he ends up scoring 4 points a game and, not that many attempts. I don't know how many attempts he had against Louisville, but he stopped shooting. We don't need that. We need him to score at a high volume. So what would be the best, and I want to ask y'all, what would be the best type of a lineup against a team like Clemson to really be able to bring that out of him?
Yeah, I think it is a great question, Etan, and you're right. I mean, he shot 7 times against Louisville, and that was a season low. He hadn't shot that few attempts in more than a calendar year. In terms of the ideal lineup, I saw somebody say this the other day that, they were in our chat, they were questioning, how does Adrian Autry not know his rotation yet? And I think some of it is just the guys that you thought you were going to have, like going into this season, I think we all thought that Chris Bell was going to be like the second or third best player on this team, and it just has not happened. And Donnie Freeman, I think we thought was going to be the second or third best player on this team, and now he's hurt. And so what do you do? And I think we're seeing the lineup change because it's different lineups work against different teams. My guest tonight, Etan, and I think you and I are on the same page about this. You said, they got away with Cuff and Carlos and JJ on the floor at the same time against Notre Dame. I don't think they get away with that lineup tonight, given how physical Clemson is. I don't know if this is a Jaquan Carlos game per se. I think they're going to, but Cuff is better off the bench. So I think they start the game with JJ and Elijah. And then I think Cuff comes in and hopefully he can continue to do what he's been doing, which is provide energy, provide really good defense, maybe make a shot here or there. You don't necessarily need him to make threes to be effective. He's got to be an energy guy, and you have to hope that JJ gets going because you're right, Etan. They can't have him shoot 7 times in a game. If they're going to go down, it's got to be with their best player, the ball in their best player's hand. So I think we're going to see a lot of JJ tonight, and I don't think we'll see a repeat of what we saw last week in terms of how many times he shot. The end result may look the same, but I think you're right. I think they got to go down with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I would like to see, JJ going, downhill the way that he can. If the defense adjusts to it and they bring that big over, or they don't allow him to really penetrate the way that he did against Boston College. He's going to have to be able to kick it to someone to be able to. They're going to have to knock down an open shot. But that's why I think that it might be beneficial for us to go inside out. To your point earlier. Because I like the way that Jair Davis has been playing. I like the way that Eddie Lampkin has been playing. And, maybe they can free up some of the outside from their, when they come down on them. I think that might be a good strategy. But yeah, no, it's going to be a tough. Tonight is going to be a tough game. Clemson has been playing very well. They're big, they're strong, they're aggressive. They are a pretty good team. So it is going to be tough.
And I think in terms of an ideal lineup tonight, we know that Clemson is physical. We know that they get on the boards. I mean, Ian Shefflin's second in the conference in rebounding right now. I think Davis, Lampkin, JJ, Cuff, all on the floor at the same time. And then whoever else is that fifth guy who's, if Bell provides something tonight, or if Elijah provides something, or Majstorovic, whoever that fifth person is, I think those other four are going to be, because Cuff, he's a physical guy who just does his job. And I think you need that kind of guy in this game tonight.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have nothing but great things to say about Cuff. The way that he's been playing, and the way that the mentality that he brings to each game, and how he's always, ready when his number is called. Nothing but good things to say about him. So I think that he could actually, I think he could be successful in any position. I know he provides that energy coming off the bench, but could he be a starter? Devo said he might put Cuff as a starter. I'd like to hear what Paulie has to say about that, because that is something that's been kind of floating around a little bit. Or would he be better in the role that he has off the bench?
I would leave him on the bench because, Chapa knocks some shots down, and you don't want to mess with a young kid's mentality, and it could screw up, chemistry on the team if you lose someone in the locker room. But, and Cuff's the type of kid that if he gets it, if I'm coming off, that's the kind of attitude you want. He gets it. I'm coming off the bench, but when I do come off, I'm going to give you my best, right? As opposed to I need to start, and, so I would leave Carlos in the starting line.
I agree with you. I like Cuff. I think Cuff likes it. Well, I don't know if I don't know if Cuff likes his role or not, but he's embraced the role, and he just goes out and does his job. And it's not who starts; it's who finishes. And he was certainly on the court there at the end of the game, hit the big free throws down the stretch against Notre Dame to get the job done. Etan, I do want to ask you about Chris Bell, and I'm sure you saw that incident about midway through the second half where Kyle Cuff, got fouled on a fast break. Bell was ahead of the field and was wide open and was very upset and was demonstrative on the court, and kind of had a little temper tantrum, for lack of a better term, and was barking at Cuff on the court. And then Adrian Autry immediately pulled him out of the game. He did not play the rest of the way. How you played basketball for a very long time on a wide variety of teams. How is something like that handled in the locker room, like after a game? Emotions are high. We know Chris Bell's a very emotional player. How does a team kind of move on from that when you've got, two players kind of barking at each other? Well, Cuff didn't really bark back. It was really a one-way conversation, but Chris Bell barking at Kyle Cuff on the court like that. How is that handled in the locker room or at practice after the game?
Well, I've seen it handled different ways. I mean, there's a lot of different, if you're open and you want the ball, you could, talk a little calmly. You can talk a little bit more aggressively. I've had my times where I was open and Jay Hart didn't pass me the ball, and I had to, talk a little bit more aggressively when we got down to the back. It happens. I don't think it's a reflection of them being any bigger issues, on the team as far as chemistry or anything like that. Chris, it's been a tough season, been an up and down season for Chris, and he felt that he was open, and he looked open to me. But you want that passion. You want him to want the ball. You want him to be able to say that, I want to score. I want to, so I don't mind that passion. I don't think it's something that should necessarily be a big deal or spill over into other games. I'm sure they probably talked after it, and it's probably over now. But I don't mind the passion. You want guys to show passion. A lot of things that we've been hearing from the fans is they want guys to be able to show that they care, show that they're in it, show that they want to win, show that, they're upset if they lose. They're upset if they want to show that passion. And the Dome looked pretty good against Notre Dame. It sounded good. It sounded like the the crowd was into it. The student section was rocking a little bit, and the Dome is a special place. When the Dome is really into it, and other teams will tell you, the Dome is a hard place to play in as an opponent. And having the fans there, there's that passion that is really, what makes it special. So I personally, this is just my opinion, I personally don't mind the passion, that Chris Bell showed, when he didn't get the ball. I want that from him. I want him to want the ball, and he's going to keep on, working hard, keep on, pushing. Things that might not be going well, not be going great, but he's going to keep on pushing. You want that out of your player.
If Syracuse finds a way to win this game tonight, there'll be a lot of passion in the Dome on Saturday when Pittsburgh comes to town. Really tall task tonight. Syracuse heavy underdogs going into Little John to take on the Tigers. Etan, as always, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much. Enjoy the game tonight, and we look forward to chatting with you again next week.
Sounds good. Pleasure as always.
All right, Etan Thomas joining us here on the